All right, good afternoon and welcome to the channel. Today, we're going to be discussing some of the new federal rules that have put out. Now, I want to also make a separate announcement that this will not be the congressional change for time limits and work requirements. Okay, this is something very separate. This was on the agenda by the president and was signed into law just a few days ago. So it's called the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. We're going to go over some of the changes. It heavily affects Section 8 housing, federal housing, and for those of you that have Section 8 vouchers. There are some good news, and of course, there's going to be some obvious changes. So we need to pay close attention to these things. For those that are following along, I'll also put notes in the comments section as well as in the description as applicable. That way, you guys can read and also take a look of the source of information for this particular law. Again, it's the 21st Century Road to Housing Act, which was approved into law for July 2026. Now, I've got notes here, guys, because I didn't feel like trying to memorize the amount of information that's involved in this particular law. But I'm going to go over some of the brief points that you guys need to keep in consideration as to the use of your voucher housing. Number one, they're going to be approving faster Section 8 inspections, which is really good news for Section 8 landlords. The most immediate housing choice voucher changes. These are intended to reduce the time between finding rental and receiving approval. So, under Section 405, certain units may satisfy Section 8 inspection requirement if the property participates in another qualifying federal housing program. The unit has passed inspection in the previous 12 months, and prior inspection meets the conditions established by law and the HUD. In other words, certain circumstances will no longer require a housing quality inspection or HQS for both landlords and tenants if the property has had a fairly recent inspection through a prior tenancy. Qualifying programs include certain properties connected to the low income housing tax credits, the Home Investment Partnership Program, and the USDA Rural Housing Service programs. Moving from there, let's see. Looks like we've got landlords may now under number two, landlords may request advanced Section 8 inspections. So that's new, the new one. In fact, they can now order inspections before a tenant actually even applies with a request for tenancy for the property, which is good news. That means that you can be inspection ready. Now, I don't know if you fail to lease the property, within a certain period of time, this may not, you may have to do it again. But new or prospective Section 8 landlords will be able to request that the housing authority inspect a vacant unit before a voucher holder selects it, which is, like I said, very good news. This could create a pool of previously inspected rentals and reduce situations where tenants find an apartment, landlord submits tenancy approval paperwork, the inspection where it's delayed, and where vouchers expire while waiting. So, in addition to that, the landlord withdraws the property because the process takes too long. So, this is to help avert those long 1 month waits. And of course, for those that have a request for tenancy that are trying to rent the property from languishing too long. An advanced inspection does not guarantee that a particular unit will be approved or that the requested rent will pass rent reasonable review. In other words, just because you get an inspection doesn't mean that the rents are guaranteed at that point. Remember that this could remain on the market and unrented for a while, therefore changing the composition and comps. Eligibility, affordability, rent reasonableness, paperwork, and final program approval still remain separate requirements at a later date. So this is just purely for that purpose to just do the inspection. Number three, new family self-sufficiency savings pilot. Section 404 authorizes a pilot program under HUD's Family Self-Sufficiency Program. The traditional FSS program allows participating families to build escrow savings when earned income increases their tenant rents, and instead of losing their entire benefit of increased earnings through the higher rent, an amount connected to the rent increase is deposited into the escrow account. The new pilot is intended to make the savings opportunity available to more HUD assisted households and encourage employment, increased earnings, household savings, home ownership, and long term financial independence. This is not an automatic nationwide savings account for every Section 8 tenant. HUD must establish the pilot and participating agencies must implement it. And finding the funding is subject to congressional appropriations. So it's still a little bit undetermined. I guess that will be rolled in as a subsection in the following October votes by Congress. Number four, up to 25 additional housing authorities may receive moving to work flexibility. So under Section 504, which authorizes HUD to add as many as 25 high performing public housing authorities to the new moving to work cohort called Economic Opportunity and Pathways to Independence cohort. Moving to work agencies can receive waivers of flexibility to combine or modify certain public housing authorities and housing choice voucher policies. The new cohort must include housing authorities of different sizes. HUD is directed to prioritize agencies serving an above average number of families with children and young people aging out of foster care. Let's keep in mind, guys, if the agency's got a history, material history of being a bad actor, and they've been reported over a multitude of times to HUD for civil rights violations and other issues, or have financial problems, or have not met their own inspections and audits, then they likely will not be able to participate in this. But moving on from there, they continue serving a substantial name number of eligible families, ensuring that at least 75% of the assisted households are very low income, and maintaining an appropriate mixture of household sizes. HUD maintains approved housing quality standards and establish reasonable rent policies designed to encourage employment and self-sufficiency. This does not convert every housing authority into a moving to work agency. Only selected housing authorities will be receiving these flexibilities. And it's important to note that there's only going to be a 25, so it's a small number, but it's going to be a small number of probably major housing authorities. Moving on from there, stronger reporting on moving to work housing authorities. So under this, if you look at what's being stimulated and what's going to be voted on before October 1st, and work requirements and time limits, a good working to work housing program with people participating, stabilizing, and then exiting the program. So what they're saying here is, besides modeling new rules, that the core of all the considerations here roll back to what was first tried. And so HUD must collect publicly reported information about the outcomes of moving to work policies. They're hoping to pull from this and then refine it. The required reporting includes eviction rates, hardship policy usage, tenant rent burdens, household turnover, reasons for family leaving assistance, number of characteristics of families served, treatment of households containing a person with a disability, waiting list length, average wait times, unit quality and accessibility, public housing conversations, and housing authority reserve and capital needs. This is important because we're moving to work agencies operate under policies that differ significantly from traditional Section 8 rules. So this is a modification to strengthen that program and then make it streamlined. In other words, the policies will likely be rolled out as one single standard across all PHAs. And number six, work requirements must be studied, but were not imposed. This is a testing board. Section 803 directs HUD to study the work requirements previously implemented by selected moving to work housing authorities. I know why they're ordering this study, because this is a real good green light to, there's a potential that the administration believes there possibly that Congress may not approve work requirements before October 1st. They may deny that. And so, in an effort to head that off, they're going to try to digest information regarding previous activities under Section 803 uh, to determine how that might have worked out with this other program, to see whether or not they can extend that to everything that's Section 8. So, moving on, that study must evaluate the effects on homelessness, poverty, employment, household savings, asset building, housing authority administrative costs, families receiving HUD assistance. This provision does not establish a nationwide Section 8 work requirement, but it's what leads up to it, right? It does not impose a 2-year time limit on vouchers. The law orders a study of the existing moving to work experiments. So, the part I'm going to focus on most out of all things we're talking about right now is this. So, we have a working example of what it means to put time limits and work requirements in this program. And that's what they're looking at. They're ordering a study to figure out, okay, if HUD approved moving to work, as an example all those years ago, how do we closely trace that out and then apply that to everything, right? So you take one thing that was approved, you modify it a little bit, and then you roll it across the rest. So, in my opinion, this is an attempt to look at a working model of what's been approved, and then try to take that and then move it into almost everything else. And that's so. This is in lieu of course, the October 1st thing. So I can tell you that the administration, whether they get approved for October 1st this year for time limits and work requirements, they're already ordering studies. So they're preparing for a possible denial by Congress of this, and then they're going to backdoor it. In other words, they're going to find a new way to get it approved. So it's going to be another one of these situations where the administration is not going to give up on time limits and work requirements. They will simply refine it by using a older established program and then trace out how that works out and then try to apply new rules to it. It's rather ingenious, but it's probably not what most of you want to hear. So moving on there, number 7, HUD-VASH, dealing veterans and disability income exclusion. So section 602 permanently exempts qualifying veterans with a disability compensation from certain income calculations. So that's good news for you veterans out there under 602. If you're receiving compensation for certain annual incomes that you're receiving, you may not actually, the housing authorities may no longer count that as an income, which is pretty good, which would put a lot of you in a low income or extreme low income category, whether you use HUD-VASH program at all. And so that will also help a lot of you to prioritize even better than you normally would. This change is intended to prevent homeless veterans from being denied HUD-VASH assistance solely based on their disability compensation, which places them above applicable household threshold. So they're changing something that was already broken to help actually most veterans at this point be able to use HUD-VASH. There's been a portion or segment, so those disability payments can be quite high, and that would actually knock them out of the ballpark for qualifying for HUD-VASH. This change will fix that, and so there will probably be a success rate around 99% after they make this change. And there'll be a few exceptions where a veteran would not be able to use HUD-VASH. And so that's all I'm going to say about that. So moving on from there, rental assistance demonstration expands by 100,000 units. Law requires that the number of public housing authority units that may be converted through HUD's rental assistance demonstration program by 100,000 units. RAD allows public housing properties to convert their subsidy platform to a long-term Section 8 assistance, usually project-based vouchers or project rental assistance contracts to help finance substantial repairs. The law also codifies tenants' protections connected to RAD conversations, and the RAD conversation does not mean that residents automatically lose assistance, but existing residents generally retrain rental assistance and specify reallocation, return. Well, they've really got some procedural names on this, but never. So to explain this a little bit better, they're going to modify the program for RAD, and this will allow PHAs to probably increase their portfolio of properties and then get rid of some of the older programs. And that means timing out people that have been grandfathered into old programs. In other words, this is a great attempt at kicking people out of old programs that may have been a cost burden. Okay. I know it sounds very different, but when you read between the lines, it's what it means. Number 9, greater oversight of troubled housing authorities. I think that in fact we're already seeing that is HUD and the administration are requiring investigations and audits of all PHAs nationwide, and we've seen a wild number of housing authorities from large to small go into receivership for improper conduct, professional misconduct, theft, fraud, and everything else. We've at least 100 videos we made on this topic. So, under Section 805, imposes additional transparency and reporting requirements on housing authorities to operate under federal receiver or monitor. In other words, the government's saying at this point, instead of holding out till every nickel's been stolen or they continue to violate rights, that HUD will have a better reaction time to being able to shut down housing authorities and take them over. Quite quite pass without even going through a court process. Covered housing authorities must provide information why the federal intervention occurred, remaining compliance problems, management oversight activities, contracts entered into by the housing authority, physical conditions at assisted properties, health and safety violations, allegations of fraud, waste, and abuse, and progress towards ending federal receivership. So basically, they're requiring housing authorities to open all their books, and if you don't comply, then they will take your housing authority, sell your portfolio, and then turn it over to receivership. They're not fucking around, okay? I told you guys, eventually housing authorities would push the line too far, and those days have come to an end. And the administration is making it very clear: you come into compliance immediately, or we will vote you off the island. We will terminate the housing authority. And so it doesn't mean termination of everybody in their voucher or the housing authority. It just means that if you can't manage it, then the US government will find somebody else to do it for you. Moving on there. The rest of this, number 10 through the rest that I'm going to put, I'm going to publish in the bottom because I don't want to carry on too long with this. Those were probably the biggest ones. I think the moving to work, as example, number 6 was probably the biggest change. They're looking at an old system of things where there were work requirements and time limits already established through a previous program, and that was successfully approved by Congress. If they model the new considerations, the new way they want to do this behind that older program, then they'll probably be very successful in rolling this out nationwide, especially if Congress denies this moving into October 1st. And right now, Congress is still in reparations for this, and we've only got what weeks and months left. So when you can't win it the first round, then you go second round with it. And so the administration found a way to do it. That's a lot of we've been seeing a lot of that. They don't give up easily. They'll try the front door, they'll try the back door, and if they can't get it that way, they'll climb through the window. One way or another, the administration is very intent on work requirements and time limits. And I think in an intelligible way, looking at moving to work requirements under an already approved program and modeling it after that is probably the way they're going to succeed. It's rather ingenious, to be honest with you, but that's what they pay those Harvard and Yale students to do for the administration is to figure out how to get things approved. So let's move on to comments here, guys. Good morning. Let's see. Susie, good morning and thank you for all you do. Much appreciated. Well, thank you very much. I don't get thanked that often for what I do, but it's certainly good to hear it. Chocolate, good morning. Muskogee Land, I am fairly sure when they switched me over to month and did not recertify, I can leave at any time. I would be extremely cautious with that. You're still under HAP contract, and so you can't simply do as you will to do unless you want a 5-year ban. So just be careful with that, okay? LA, Soda, Arizona, YouTube is becoming so annoying, splitting the screen and showing a commercial. Well, that's YouTube has control of it, not I anymore. YouTube's turned into a different thing. I mean, I make videos. YouTube, I don't even control ads anymore. I could used to control when we had ads in our video, when we put them. I don't control that. It's automatic now. YouTube decides in its own way. So if you see ads, it's not my force of me. Yeah, I want the ads because clearly we get paid something for making these videos, but I don't control if they put 100 in there or they. So I hate to tell you guys, just the way it goes. It's out of my hands at this point. BGI, thank you for sharing and staying on top of it, Jay. The substantial effort. I know I'm constantly reading and I'm shocked what is being done about the illegal immigrants actually running a HUD rental office. Well, I'm sure there are circumstances that are less than favorable, and immigration remains largely a big issue for our nation. But I think it's also important to understand there has been some great efforts to take care of some of this. Nothing's going to work flawlessly, and usually these efforts take time. It's not usually a big tidal wave of change, but rather a slow, consistent effort towards it. I know there's been a lot of immigration related news out there, so I don't really need to jump on that too much. Moving on from there, let's see. I'm missing what Jay is saying during the commercial. Okay, well, thank you for bringing that up. Lesotho, Arizona, my rent just jumped to 67% increase in October. I'm on medical leave. My daughter's got her hours to zero because people are cutting spending and I'm turning in paperwork, but I don't think it's going to do. You know, we live in probably some of the toughest times that I've seen, at least in my lifetime. Though we're not in a recession, I can tell you that friends, family, no matter where I go in town, who I speak to, ain't nobody trying to spend money. Everybody's hanging on for dear life. A lot of companies are going out of business. I mean, it's crazy. Uh, I look at this every day. Even my office lost approximately 90% of its business, and that's okay because I mean I'm for the most part retired. But I mean, to watch one single couple of years has been pretty devastating with all the changes, wars, and different things, and people seem to appear to be struggling. Okay, so my consensus is things will come to pass. The country goes through turmoil and things change, and then we all learn to deal with adversity. You tighten your buckle, and you live to breathe another day, right? So we just have to try to look for the ray of sunshine through all the tough times. La Vista Palms, do you consult with people? Absolutely. I've consulted with people for nearly 26 years, worked at the federal level 26 years, served 22,000 people. I've made over 2,000 videos. I've got links to websites, booking software. So, yes, I consult a lot of people. And I'm probably one of the most affordable options in America, considering that I've outlasted nearly every Section 8 consultant there is in the market. And I'm probably the largest Section 8 channel, any platform there is. But just to answer your question, I absolutely do. If you'd like to speak to me regarding any matter navigating federal law, state law, county law, federal housing programs, then that's my forte. Policy, procedures, I can do all of it. And I don't even need to read from anything, not even a teleprompter. I'm probably a walking library at this point, a quarter century doing this. But moving on from there, let's quit ringing my own bell, right? They send out paperwork all late, and so that you have 1 or 2 days to do anything. Well, that's why we have arbitration, and that's why you have informal hearings with PHAs in case you have problems like that. You also can take that matter civilly, depending on the circumstances. So, not all is lost unless you wait a year or longer. Then you can't go back and then argue a new point. Moving on from there, XYZ. So, is it worth keeping a PBB during or after a RAD conversation? I would say that for now, at least till the end of the year, and we have the full picture and see what Congress approves. I would say for now it is, but after the end of the year, you might want to reconsider your position on that. Okay, 2027 is going to bring new stuff, new rules, new federal policies, and so I would say at least for now, just hold on, but you definitely want to reconsider at the beginning of the year. BI goes on to say, "Thank you, Jay. Good details on receivership. It's an unfortunate consequence, but housing authorities and one, I would like to see very much it be a federal mandate that the word authority be taken out of the word housing authority. They are not an authority of anything, okay? Nor are they federal employees. They are privately owned or city owned organizations that accept federal dollars and then make determination of vouchers. That's it. They carry absolutely no state or federal law. People are fooled into believing way more of these housing authorities than should be. Many more of them have operated with near impunity, and there has been so much waste and fraud and an improper conduct and violation of civil rights because the way housing authorities operate as a for-profit business that it's not surprising to me that the U.S. government's fed up, is auditing, investigating, and in some cases even indicting and shutting down housing authorities for absolute corruption. I mean, you got some of them that are running like a syndicate. I have argued against this for a long time, and so nothing will bring greater joy than to have the bad actors removed. Now, to the credibility, there are hardworking housing authority caseworkers that mean well and do well, but there's not enough. We cannot continue a program on sentiment when billions are stolen and misused. It doesn't serve the people; it's self-serving. So moving on from there, Chocolate goes on. Even HUD denied my request. Well, there could be a lot of reasons for that. I mean, a lot of you don't do the best job in formulating your arguments to HUD. Y'all tend to do more like story-like reports versus actually capturing the intent of what federal law is and arguing your case well. If you fail to get HUD's attention, then you might want to actually consult with an actual real consultant that's done this for 25 years that understands federal policy and procedure. Otherwise, you're arguing sympathy and empathy, and you're not going to get a great result out of it. They're not going to waste their time reading uh, some report that you issue to them that reads more like a life story than a factual basis that's filled with emotion. And so I'm not suggesting you've done that, and that's not for me to try to discipline you in that respect. I'm just saying that if you're really going to argue a case, then you guys have to do a hell of a lot better job than Googling something and using an AI. Even when my office uses AI, I probably program at least 2 to 5 pages of directions to teach the AI. Otherwise, it pulls from nonsense articles and hallucinates a lot of shit. And you guys have gotten way too comfortable with that. And then you're using that to file accommodations and argue points with the feds. They're laughing. They're able to easily identify you AI the shit out of it, and it doesn't actually meet the federal requirements. So your cases are falling on dead ears. They're not going to take that trash. So again, I'm not here to discipline anybody or to disappoint, but it doesn't work for lawyers. It doesn't work for court cases, and it's not going to work for your argument dealing with a federal agency. You either work with a real consultant or you work with an attorney. Option A or B. Your other options are work with the housing authority if they'll ever even answer the door or the phone. Or you can deal with 211 or 311 for free information, but we all know what happens when you get government cheese. It doesn't taste that great. Okay. So that's the problem. We live in a world where things are expensive right now and everybody wants shit for free, but nothing for free is worth shit. Okay, let's just be clear. Are you prepared to throw away your housing case? Are you prepared to get yourself evicted or even banned from a program because you thought AI could fix your problem? Be careful. Proceed cautiously. Many of you only get one chance before you light your case on fire. And I'm not trying to strike fear or panic. This is common sense, folks. You got to do a better job of representing yourself. And if you don't know what the hell you're doing, then try to work with somebody that does. I'm just being real. I get tired of getting calls from all with sob stories. How you feel about your case is not going to fix it. So moving on from there, CC's. I try to move on, but the landlord would only hold an apartment for 8 to 15 minutes, HUD said. Okay, I can tell you that's an absolute nonsense. I'm not saying what you're saying is nonsense. I'm just saying that I would characterize that as not even a truth at all. Okay, it doesn't work that way. Moving on there, Letitia. I hope I'm reading these names right. I don't have my glasses on, so sometimes I make up an approximate names of things I see in comments here. Could move on. 9-1 earliest. Gotcha. Lesota. So it's 2027. Can it get any worse? Well, shit can always get worse. Look around. When you see an abused dog, when you see an elderly person abandoned at a homeless shelter, can it get worse? It can get a whole lot fucking worse. So many people don't even know what problems are. When it's tough and you ain't got a lot of extra money. There are lots of people suffer a whole lot more. I warn you guys not to use statements like that in this channel. Okay, they got people with no legs, people that are deaf, blind. So yeah, they can always get a whole lot worse. What we need to do is see what we can do, one human to another, to possibly ease that misery for any given person, including seniors, children, vets, and the abused. We need to consider more than ourselves. That's a hard request on America because we're capitalists by nature. If it doesn't pay us, then we don't want to participate. So I'm not going to argue politics here, guys. That's not the point. So let's move on. Pika, good morning. Good morning to you as well. I probably had too much coffee, so I'm a little mixed up today, right? Lasoda, true, that's gotta be your own advocate. Well, sometimes you have to be the devil's advocate because we don't all accept truths as being the same. And so I'd rather be genuine and piss people off than to be a liar and then whisper sweet things in your ear. The law is the law. I mean, I can post it clearly for you guys and what's been approved and what's not. It's not a decision of my own vanity. I'm just here to educate because I believe the benefit of my conversation and experience could provide a little bit of relief for some of you. It's certainly not going to fix all your problems. Even if you paid my office to do something, it's not going to fix all your problems because I don't sell fantasies. What I sell is experience. and in some cases, better mental health because some of you guys are have one foot out the door from stress, poor health condition. So we all need some good news. The good news is there's not a lot of bad news right now. I hope that's worth something to you guys. If I can provide you with nothing further for this 30 minutes of my day. Moving on. Well said. Well, thank you very much. I should give speeches, right? North Carolina. Boy, you're having a tough time there typing there, CC. Your keyboard might have a few broken buttons, but that's all right. We'll still hug you. Lasola, we appreciate you and the truthfulness. I appreciate that. You know what? And I've had to suck it. You know what? When you tell Sally to suck it up, we all heard that, right? You and I have to suck it up. I look down at my cats, they're out there moaning for another free treat. Well, we ain't got money for that. So suck it up, Sally. That's just the reality we live in right now. Shit's tough. We all have to deal with adversity. First thing you learn as a baby growing up into a child and then a teenager and adult is you have to learn to deal with adversity. Not all shit's going to be nice. It isn't always going to be sweet, and shit ain't always going to go your way. If your mama taught you that, then you're probably going to be a flake all your life. Okay. I mean, hell, even I had, look, let me tell you an interesting story real quick. I'm on a budget, right? It's 7:01. I'm riding to go get a haircut. Door's closed. Two ladies in front of the door. They're locking it. I get them to unlock it because I've been going there a long time. I'm shaving my head, right? I got no cape, no nothing. Just shave it with me fully in my clothes, no cape, nothing, no towel, nothing on your neck. I'm driving home. I've got hair all over me, right? But times are tough. I need the haircut, and so I just took it. We did it Western style. No minute. The light bulbs in the building weren't even on either. They were just helping me out. Because I wanted to be proper for the videos, so that was the cost of it. Of course, I gave her a few dollars and she tucked it in her bra. I know she didn't pay the hair salon probably, but that's life. She needs money. I needed a haircut, and we did it Western style. I came home, shook the hair off, and we move on with our day. Everybody's being affected, okay? So we can all cry and jump off the same bridge at the same time. But in terms of Section 8, moving back beyond all my war stories and haircuts, right? I think the big thing we're pulling from this information that I've just talked about and what I'm going to post in the comment section is one basic idea. The administration is making it very clear that whether they fail or succeed October on or before October 1st, that they will roll out time limits and work requirements, and they're going to strongly dissect the working to move program that has been previously approved as a great example and a launch board to do so. So one way or another, this shit's going to happen. They made that clear. They're ordering research on that program. If their version doesn't gets approved, then they're going to look at what's already been approved and they're going to modify it just enough to clear Congress. And while that may not be the greatest news, that's what's going to happen. So we get another cup of adversity, and you drink Jim Jones's Kool-Aid, right? And then you move on with your life. Things happen, folks. Things are going to continue to change. We could all cry, bitch, moan, whatever you like to do, but the reality is it'll change, and we learn to live with it. That's what it is. So I don't know if it's good or bad news. The good news is it's going to take them a while to probably re-engineer this. So maybe that'll last a couple of years. Who knows? But again, the good news is nothing about this video suggests there's any big impact at this point, other than really on housing authorities. And there's a future potential that they're weaponizing move to work programs to match the requirements of time limits and work requirements throughout all federal programs. So that's in the future. So you please save your tears, put them in your pocket, pull them back out when it happens. There's no reason to cry about it now, right? But I call that the savings tiers. Put them in your savings purse. You pull the purse out at the appropriate time, and then we can complain about it. But it ain't here yet. But I mean that's the motivation. We all see it. It's here. Wake up call. Thankfully, those that are disabled and seniors are not going to have this problem. They appear to be immune to this, along with some veterans. However, everybody else, well, it's everybody's fair game. if approved. And I think we're all clear that the administration has had a clear reputation. When they don't get it done from the front door or the back door, they'll go through the window. So that moving to work program will be the launch pad. I mean, I think that's the clearest message we can collect from all of this. And housing authorities have been put on notice. I think that's the other clear message is the housing authority is no longer going to be able to operate with impunity. Yeah, there's going to be shit happening, and it's going to continue to happen for a while. But the consequences are going to get tougher and tougher for them, and they're gambling at this point. Federal dollars paid for everything those housing authorities have. What's been given can be taken back, and pretty soon, when HUD rolls out AI, there may not even be a necessity to deal with housing authorities at all. In the future, they're not going to need that. They'll be able to administrate entire housing authorities simply with AI. And guess what? AI doesn't have an attitude. The AI doesn't get confused. The AI doesn't steal money. It doesn't need money. The AI doesn't need to be prejudicial. The AI doesn't have a problem with answering the phone and doing its fucking job, right? So you see, the solution is around the corner. It's just as soon as HUD can figure out a way to do this, then it will be the fall and the end of most housing authority. Yeah, they'll have IT there, maybe one manager. You got to have one human in the building. But the old days of operating with impunity and hiring crackheads and prostitutes to work at the housing authority and call themselves case managers is over. And I don't mean that broadly. There's lots of people who are well qualified as housing authority employees. Okay. So I'm not trying to wring every chicken's neck with that comment, but let's be honest. Housing authorities, you look at all businesses nationwide, housing authorities have, by virtue, the lowest star ratings of any. They don't even, they rank lower than Burger King. I didn't even think it was possible to have such a bad reputation. Even the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles for most states, has a better reputation than the housing authority. And so the message is very clear. But we mustn't make everybody accountable. There are lots of people that pour their heart and soul into helping people that work at housing authorities, but that's an unfortunately small number. And therefore, those days are coming to a sweltering end. And probably to the benefit of a lot of clients' mental health, because people are tired of trying to participate in a program and deal with people with an attitude. That's why I always give such supremely Hollywood names and envision ideas of housing authorities, because I've not seen a lot good come out of that. Despite having a large federal budget, they by far have some of the worst people ever that have been hired to do any job. You would be better off having probably, I don't know. I can't think. I can, you would be better having the janitor work your case, in many cases, not all, not all. There are some good people. I've got caseworkers that work at housing authorities and visit our channel all the time. These aren't good people. They know their shit. They do their job well. There's not enough. Therefore, when there's not enough, then we have to look at changing that system to make it operably better. Okay, dealing with the housing authority should not be a war zone filled with attitude. You shouldn't feel like you're visiting the county jail and that your caseworker is somehow, the guard. And that's the sentiment that a lot of people in this country share through their mangled experience with poorly run housing authorities and employees that are overworked, filled with attitude and contempt for the very people they've been paid to do a fucking job for. So I put it out there. There we go. Anyways, moving on down. I'm going to say a few more comments. We're going to wrap it up. I just want to make myself clear. I'm not scared of any housing authority or their legal counsel. I can match them lawyer for lawyer. I spend plenty of time through my own company dealing with law firms. It'd be a terrible mistake to fuck with me. But anyways, moving on. Lesotho, Arizona, on the waiting list in Southern California, 15 years. Sorry to hear that. Muskogee Land, they need to investigate the Santa Fe. They need to investigate a lot of them, and they are. Moving on from there, because we just make a video not even 4 days ago where the Virgin Islands Housing Authority, Finance Housing Authority, is now involved in a $1.9 billion scam, all under the guise it was hurricane relief, and then they gave the housing authority. You'd have been better off with a plane filled with $2 billion flying it over a prison and giving it to the inmates than have given that little housing authority all that money. They've been rich theirself on that little island, and they're running that shit like it's a jungle. Okay, no offense, but really. Now the money's gone, right? So we talked all about that. Now that's the budget for like half the housing authorities in America. 2 billion. And we give it some little island housing authority. Yeah, we'll do the right thing. We'll do prayer circles and help everybody. They didn't do a thing but stole everything. So now everybody that basically works for the agencies on investigation won't be long before the planes start flying in. They'll be over there following indictments in the New York court system, and then they're going to get a private sale to Supermax for fucking stealing everything again. So here we go. What does this make? About 120 housing authorities failed, insolvent, stole everything. This one probably has led the largest scam in U.S. history. And then people ask me, well, why are you so hard on housing authorities? Why you talk so badly about their employees? Well, I'm only doing what they do every day to my clients. I'm only producing a conversation that's directly related to their financial capabilities when you operate it like a syndicate. So I'll leave you with this one thought, guys. Besides my own personal shared emotions of the housing authority being supremely unqualified to ever handle cases, I would nationwide, except for some of them, I would say to you that we need to focus all of our attention and energy on the changes that are coming before October 1st and see if that's going to have a relevant impact on your housing, your voucher, or ability to get housing vouchers. This year, 2026 has largely been one of the toughest years in U.S. history to participate in a federal program. It's been so difficult that housing authorities, one way or another, a lot of them didn't even want to open a waiting list. We look, I can count on two hands how many times I've seen things open up and it was for only project based. And it was because somebody moved out or got evicted. And that's not to mention, we're seeing some of the highest eviction levels in history. Just for the city I live in, they have filed 75,000 evictions. That's one city. People cannot afford to participate in current society. People bankrupt and they're not paying their credit cards. Small businesses are going, they're dime a dozen, a million gone. And now we're doing hundreds of thousands of evictions in cities all around America because people can't even afford to rent anymore. So we need to think carefully as a nation what we do and how that's going to affect everybody. Because not everybody's upper middle class, not everybody's wealthy. The rest of us have to grovel. It can mean the difference between you go to the gas station. We all know there's a button for 87 octane and the 93. Ain't nobody trying to push the button for 93 octane at $95 a fucking gallon. Nobody's trying to mash that bitch. The gas station got smart. They're even moving the buttons around, hoping you'll just do it off reflex. Okay, it's like the old days back in the 80s when you went to the gas pump, you put the $5 because that's all you had. You had to shake the loose change out of your pockets and off the couch. These days, that pump gets going for about 6 seconds and you're already 40 deep. Gas is more expensive than cocaine. People had enough nationwide. We've all had enough. So it is what it is. And so we survive. That's what we do as good as Americans. But, tough times require tough resolve. We'll get through it. We always do. What else are we going to do? Well, guys, I've enjoyed talking with you today, and I've enjoyed sharing some of professional advice. Others very my own opinion. I advise all to formulate their own opinion on a factual basis. Research things for yourself and determine what is your truth and what your reality is. You don't need to gobble mine up. The other half of this video is my shared personal opinion. It, in effect, is just me. Please draw your own conclusions and go from there. I'm going to post the professional advice at the beginning of the video in the comment section in the description for you guys to review. It'll also bring context and you can look at the actual law and you can digest the information for yourself. I hope to see you guys again Thursday. It'll be less fire and brimstone, and then we will discuss another important live. Live videos are going to be typically 10 a.m. Central Standard Time on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays only, okay, in the mornings. The rest of the videos will be pre-recorded and educational. I am intending on rolling out roughly 2,000 of them to cover every known Section 8 topic out there, especially the more obscure topics, to ensure you guys have a working. I'm trying to give AI a good working knowledge of Section 8 programs. We got a lot of people that are entertainers on YouTube that have no experience at the federal level. They have no experience with anything, making crazy videos about shit that just simply is not connected to reality and is convoluting the response time of AI because the AI doesn't know what to believe. So to solve that problem, I'm going to run an extraordinary number of videos to cancel out all this bullshit being published all over the internet that is misleading, that is not does not have a factual base on policy and procedure. And I'm going to drown it all out. I can do that because this channel has more authority on this Section 8 and federal housing than any other person on earth. And so, with that kind of authority my channel has, it means I can cancel out those voices that are just trying to make a thrifty nickel, right? You got Sally and Bob one day, they're an expert at cupcakes. The next day, they want to make a thrifty nickel on YouTube talking out the side of their ass about Section 8, and they don't know shit. So it's of great concern because AI isn't smart enough yet to determine who's an entertainer and who's actually real. That being said, guys, enjoy your day. We will see you again this afternoon. I'm going to make another wonderful video educational guide for portability. This will be a whole guide, and then we'll continue on our path to enlighten AI and the general public on actual factual basis of policy, procedure, code of federal regulation, and what you should actually be doing in current times, not old articles written 13 years ago on programs that are no longer relevant to the topic. Okay. Thank you and enjoy your day. Bye for now.